Thanks to Goblin Studios for sponsoring this one. Alright everyone, it's Sunday again, believe it or not. And firstly, congrats to this person, you won a free copy of something. Please ping us an email, and if you want to win a copy of a game, just leave your comments down below, let us know what you're playing, what you're trying to finish, and we'll get that over to you. We gave away 4 copies of Slipstream, as well as another game in the last video, and I think we are remarkably close, if not there, at reaching 250,000 subscribers, which is ridiculous. So thank you so much from Glen and I. Can't believe we're really, 250,000. That's a lot of people, isn't it? My word. I think we have one of the best sales videos we've done in a long time. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah, there's a cracking sale on at the moment. What are my favourite pickups? Well, let's find out.
We'll begin by looking at a game from the sponsor of today's video, Goblin Studio, and that's As Far As the Eye. This resource management sim sees you playing as the omnipotent being, the Wind, whose purpose is to guide a tribe known as the Pupils to the centre of the world in order to avoid an impending natural disaster. In gameplay terms, this means moving your village along to new locations. To do this, you'll have to overcome obstacles such as broken bridges by gathering resources in each new area in order to continually move on. Each area is known as a halt, and your pupils will need to be moved each turn in order to search, forage and harvest materials. These may be food in order to keep your pupils fed on each turn, they may be used to create buildings such as a quarry to mine for further materials, or you may even be able to build a market allowing you to trade with other tribes for necessary materials that are not available in your current halt. Pupils can improve their proficiency at certain jobs through the job system, and buildings can also be improved as well as the whole tribe through gaining knowledge. You must have met the necessary objectives and leave each halt in a set number of turns, otherwise the tribe will be submerged in the huge tidal wave that chases you across the world. As well as this though, other random dangers such as illness or lightning storms can cause you trouble along the way. There is a campaign to attempt, a quick game mode or a custom game mode where you can tinker with a host of variables and make the game as involved or as difficult as you wish. It has that low poly look with an autumnal colour palette and soothing soundtrack, which works well to keep things mellow even as the journey to survive plays out. There are no enemies to fight, but that doesn't mean the world is not a dangerous one, with the aforementioned natural disasters or starvation a real possibility if you do not plan out each turn properly. As Far As the Eye costs £18.89 or your regional equivalent, which will be on your screen now. It currently has a 30% discount available which lasts until the 5th of May, but this can be increased to 50% should you own one of the publisher's other games on the Switch, with these being Banner of Ruin, Legend of Keepers or newly released Defend the Rook. There will be a link in the description of the video and the top pinned comment where you can purchase the game if you are interested.
Well, I didn't think I'd see the day come, but here we are. Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy, the definitive edition, is 33% off, but more importantly, they actually patched it up. If you want to check out our full all patched up episode, it's up to version 1.6 now. I'll pop a link in the description, but you can see for yourself it's a much better game in terms of performance than it was at launch. I know everyone always says, oh, why can't it run this 20, 30-year-old game when it used to run on blah 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 blah, and I have to reiterate that it's not the same engine. So you've taken the same game and you've put it into a more powerful engine, that being the Unreal Engine, which is notoriously not the best on Switch, and yeah, it just struggles really sometimes, but it's much better than it was now. At least it's playable, it looks much better, and they're obviously classic games. They're still pretty expensive. I mean, it's 33 quid, but that's for all 3 games, and it's going to take it's going to take you at least 60 to 100 hours to fully complete all 3 of those. I'm just pleased to be able to actually say they're worth picking up, honestly, and that sale goes on until May the 8th. Then we've got one of my favourite games of all time. It's Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic from Aspire. Well, they brought it across, and actually they were tweeting last week about Knights of the Old Republic 2. Just some random tweets, not saying they were going to release it, but then I commented down in the in the comments below the Twitter thing saying Knights of the Old Republic 2 next, and they liked it straight away. So I am just deciding that it's coming soon. I sure do hope so. But this one's 20% off. Oh, sorry, 26% off, taking it down to £8.40 or your regional equivalent. It's an 11GB download, so it's pretty chunky. And you're looking at about 40 to 50 hours of gameplay. Now, it's an old school BioWare. Essentially, it's an old school BioWare adventure. You can have up to 3 players in your party. Obviously, you can unlock Jedi abilities, but that comes a bit later on. And it had a very cool mechanic at the time whereby, depending on the choices you make, it shows on your profile picture whether you're becoming light side or dark side. And yeah, it's just a great game. That sale goes on until May the 5th, so you haven't got that long on that one. Then we've got Ruined King, a League of Legends story, and I was watching the League of Legends animation that was on Netflix, and it was absolutely amazing. So then I decided I'd buy this and you know, see how it goes. And there is actually a full review of this, half written, in the SwitchUp archives that never got made because we had something else that had to be covered, and I was really enjoying it. But it had turn-based combat. The world looks great, like it looks absolutely beautiful. There were a few performance hiccups and whatnot, and I'm not sure if there's been another patch since I was playing it, but it's still, the performance is good enough, you know. Most of the time it's 30 frames per second. It runs, for me, well enough to pick up at this price. And it was quite a compelling story. You were on a bit of a, well, it was split up into different characters, but one of them you're kind of on the search for this slightly mysterious individual slash being, I don't know what you'd call them. And there was like this female pirate captain that kills her old, well, I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it is good. I enjoyed it, and it's on sale until May the 8th. And I should have mentioned that the deluxe edition is also 35% off, taking it down to £22 or your regional equivalent. And I remember what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Battle Chasers Night War. Love that game. Not needing a huge amount of introduction, we've got Super Mario Odyssey. It's very rare that Nintendo actually let their games go on sale, so if you don't own this one, it is one of the best action platform adventures on Switch. The cappy mechanic was so sweet, being able to throw your cap, take over control. You're essentially possessing the enemies, and then you can like fly them around if you're a bullet and things like that. It also had some very nice little flourishes, things like where it switches to 2D, and it has that kind of flashback to the old games. I guess we could probably call this the kids pick for the week, honestly, and it will take a 5.6 gigabyte download, and it's quite a long game as well, although you could complete it in about 15 hours to do everything and find all the moons and all the hidden things. You're looking at more like 50 to 70. Next up then is a game that almost caused an argument in my house between me and the wife when she came in and I was playing Catherine Full Body. She was like, "What on earth is that?" I was like, it's for a review. I mean, describing it is difficult. It's very unusual. The game's split between like strange dating nightmare for this very unusual gentleman to this nightmarish realm where you're trying to climb up these towers and there are weird sheep people and stuff. They also put the versus co-op in it, but I'm telling you, it's a super addictive game. I mean, Catherine's obviously absolutely bonkers, but it's got a good soundtrack as well, and it's the puzzle, that core puzzle gameplay, apart from when it's constantly saying edge, is really good. It's very, very unique, and if you're someone that likes slightly surrealist experiences, then Studio Zero have the game created, ready, and right here on sale. It has a download size of 14.2 gigs. It'll take you about maybe 15 hours for your first playthrough, and then if you want to do all the little secret and side bits, it's going to take a lot longer. But it's 65% off, taking it down to £15.74, and that's until May the 8th. Edge. I almost feel obliged to mention Hades because it's one of the highest scores on the channel, and it's an incredible game that still quite a few people, especially some people that don't like roguelites. Like, I know we're all a bit saturated maybe with roguelite, and the best roguelites are just some of the most incredible games, and to be honest, one of my favourites is probably The Binding of Isaac, and we had that massive expansion, didn't we, just come out? But Hades is just unbelievably good. So if you haven't bought it yet, or you haven't considered it, then do consider it. We do have a full review if you want to check that out, but it's a very fast action-paced game. You unlock different weapons. The narrative of it, and one of the best aspects, is that every time you play through, it slightly changes, and it might reference certain events, certain things you did, certain places you died. It's just great, and for what? £14.61. That matches its lowest ever price. It's well worth that. If you're not a physical collector, then pick it up digitally. It is on sale until May the 8th, and it has a download size, as I say, of 5.7 gigs. Oh, we've got a real winner next. It's Death's Door. It's 30% off. That's £12.59, the cheapest it's ever been on sale, and it's just a brilliant mixture of an adventure, It's got some sprinklings of Souls-like in terms of some of the boss fights. It's got a tiny bit of Metroidvania flavour to it, but it's chiefly just a top-down action adventure where you control a rather dexterous crow. What a ridiculous sentence. It's a download of 2.7 gigs and it's a shortish experience of 10 to 15 hours. That sale goes on until May the 8th. Then we've got the awesome Eldest Souls. This one was in our Souls-like video that we recently did called No Elden Ring, No Problem, which really triggered a few people. But it's half price at the moment. It's a boss rush Souls-like, so you literally move from one boss to the next. There's a bit of exposition in between via some slightly unusual characters that whisper short nothings to you, and it doesn't really make sense, but for some reason it makes you feel like you're part of a grander narrative. I really enjoyed it. It's like banging your head against a wall until you're given a nice sweet treat at the end of a victory, as most Souls-likes are. Really enjoyed it, but very short. About 5 to 10 hours depending on your skill level, and a 1.4GB download. That's the cheapest it's ever been, and that's on sale until May the 5th. Despite everyone always banging on about Dragon Quest XI's being like the greatest thing since sliced bread, it's pretty damn good. There's a 10-hour long demo, so maybe give that a bash if you've not played it, and you can continue your progress after the demo if you decide to pick it up. But it is just, everything's done so well, all the systems are so slick and so refined. It does a few very Dragon Questy things, like some of the music, so there are some slightly unusual musical pieces that don't necessarily tie with what's going on screen, like there'll be a tragic thing happening and this like do 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 do, and you're like, what on earth is that? Now thankfully there is a little known option in the menus where you can switch to some of the older music for the open world areas, and it's much more fitting in my opinion, and less irritating. It doesn't have a short loop. But other than that weird little rant that I just went off on, Dragon Quest XI's is a very, very good game if you're a fan of traditional style JRPG adventures. You're looking at a beast. An absolute beast in terms of its length. Could take you anywhere from 80 to 100 hours. I'm sure you could speed through it, and it has a 13.9GB download, but very highly recommended. At half price, yes please. Normally I kind of tell you my thoughts and I say, if that sounds interesting, buy it. Disco Elysium, buy it. Like, it is incredibly good. It's incredibly good. If you're someone that really appreciates films and movies, and you know, well, things that go a bit deeper than your Marvel. I like Marvel, it's great. Well, it does what it says on the tin, really, doesn't it? But Disco Elysium, it hits deeper. There's a lot of underlying narratives. The guy who created this struggled massively with depression and suicidal thoughts, and he manages to articulate a big chunk of what makes us all human. I know that sounds really pretentious, and I guess it is pretentious, but you need to play it. And anyone that's played it, let people know down in the comments. It's such a good game. Now, it's an adventure game. It takes place from a top-down perspective. You take on, well, I won't say his name because you won't know his name when you start out the game, but you'll find it by the end. And it's just so different. The closest thing I can kind of reminds me of is there was a Blade Runner point-and-click adventure game that was released back on PC in like 1990 something, and it had a kind of familiar feeling, a similar feeling I should say. So yeah, it's strange. There are these percentage chance decisions. You can level up every part of your psyche. Don't ask. Go watch the full review if you're interested, but I'd say you should own this one. It's 35% off, taking it down to £23.39 or your regional equivalent, and that has a download size of 7 gigs. That's all the like the main sales. That's 10 games, but I do want to add in a hidden gem on the end, which we reviewed when it came out. Oh, when did this one come out? Like December of last year, something like that. And it's Loop Hero. It is absolutely incredible. Like, it's so strange. It comes from Devolver Digital, so you kind of know the pedigree there. They don't pick bad games. They seem to have some kind of like Jedi power of picking good games, but it was developed by 4 Quarters. Now, it was released on Steam quite a while back, and it has a real fan base, a real critical following. And when I describe it, you're going to go, that sounds terrible. You essentially start your quest on this infinite loop. As you go around the loop, you'll have to fight enemies, which will then get you different gear and items. But then you can also place things, so you gradually rebuild this world. The premise goes that it's like on the brink of nothingness. There's nothing there. And as you do the loop and fight creatures and place items back in, you're rebuilding the world. Now, what's very cool is there's loads of different combinations to the different things you place. So if you put certain things together, and it doesn't tell you how to do this, which is another one of the things that makes it so interesting, but two certain things together might create something new. So spoiler, stop listening now for the next 10 seconds if you don't want a quick little spoiler. But if you place down 9 little rocks, then they'll form into a mountain, and that will release certain things that you couldn't otherwise get. So yeah, I know it sounds really odd, but after a certain number of loops you can fight a boss, and you can then have this town area that you can improve and build up. It's so strange, but it works so well. So hidden gem, quite a bit of waffling there, sorry about that, but I wanted to kind of try and articulate to you what it actually is. 25% off, and that's until May the 8th. Which leaves us with 2 games you should avoid. Now, why should you avoid them? Generally, they're because I hate them with a passion, but hopefully it's because they've done something that's just wrong, or they're just not a fun game, or there's such bad performance that you shouldn't pick them up on Switch, or they're overpriced and you shouldn't pick them up. So one of those reasons, and invariably someone will always comment, I disagree. And that's fine, isn't it? It's okay to disagree. In fact, it's probably good for us, if anything. So first up, you definitely shouldn't buy Eastwood. No, I'm joking. It's a great game and it's on sale. You should probably go and get that, to be honest. First up then, and we're so starved on Switch, aren't we, of a decent third and first person shooter games. I know there are some good ones, but there are some missing, aren't there? Call of Duty, I don't know why that hasn't been released. Like, they could easily have done a Black Ops 2 that ran more than well enough, and they'd have made an absolute arm and a leg. But Bullet Battle Evolution, oh, it's atrocious. It really is bad. The controls are janky. The online play is, well, I guess it's hilariously bad. So there is that, if you want a good laugh. But make sure you're laughing at the expense of someone else who's paid for it, because it's just a shocker. And then there's Doodle God Evolution. Now, Doodle God's been around for yonks. It was available back on mobile, wasn't it? And then you realised how mellow it was and stopped drawing stuff. But Doodle God Evolution changes the formula a little bit. There's still that classic game mode here, but it also has what's called Doodle Farm, and the puzzles in mission mode, it still doesn't do enough to give it a real sense of purpose. Now, the point here is you're supposed to be essentially like repopulating the earth, but it's just clunky and janky, and if my kids get bored of it, basically I'm like, wow, like, because that, you know, they watch Bing, that's all I need to say. So if a game doesn't keep their attention, then it's going straight in this list. And that, my friends, is it for another week. We came, we saw, hopefully we didn't spend too much money, but if we did, at least we knew that we spent to save. That's the line, right? I'm spending to save. Ay caramba. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to our patrons as well. And remember, leave your comments down below, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it. And as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya! Oh, that was a nice one.